Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
That's your morning, right?
I'm Sabrina Daly.
And I am Isani Cayetano.
And thank you for joining us on this wet Wednesday. Isani,
Yes.
It is rainy outside. Nonetheless, good morning.
Good morning, Sab.
Happy to have you here, dry and in person.
Yes. I didn't want to get out of bed this morning.
Yeah.
That thunder and lightning and the showers that we had overnight. You know, if I was complaining, if there was ever a complaint yesterday that it was hot, you know, the change in temperature overnight, the draft that came along with the rain kind of cooled things down considerably. Yeah. So getting up out of bed this morning was a task.
I love the rain at nighttime. I feel, and I've said this before, I feel like you get a better night's rest. But I don't like it while trying to get to work. I don't like the muckiness of it. So let's hope that it kind of dries up earlier or later today, but not too hot like yesterday.
Well, this is my public acknowledgement of the municipal government that we're now having, you know, concrete streets. Never just started with this administration, but over time we have been concretizing and paving our city streets, so I don't have to worry about the muckiness of it. Get out of my house, come to work, my feet are dry, you know, my shoes remain dry, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you're fine. But remember, though, to get a story, you're not always on concrete streets, so that's the part.
Yeah, I mean, naturally you'd have to go after
going out on the field, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yes,
and if it's raining and pouring and it's mucky outside, you might just get caught in some of that muck.
Well, truth be told, I have a trusty pair of rubber boots, never too far away. I learned that once, I believe it was earlier this year, where my cameraman and I went on a trek in search of a body. And there was a huge pool of water that we had to cross in order to continue our trek. And so we ended up turning right back around, coming back to work, got some purchase orders, and got some pairs of rubber boots.
Got some gears.
Yeah, I've kept that handy ever since.
No, I've also been in a position where I had to prepare myself in that way as well. And, you know, the way my personality is set up, I have to do it in my own style. So I got a pair of pink rubber boots.
Well,
so you'd see me down the street in pink boots. But, I mean, we have been noticing some changes in the weather. And as you know, Isani, it is the time for the Atlantic hurricane season. So we should be expecting some type of weather patterns. But what's great to mention is that we will be having the chief himself, the chief meteorologist, on the show, sharing a bit more of what's taking place. And, of course, we'll be able to talk all things weather. But yeah, aside from the rain, we also had mass camps take place last night. The first one, actually.
So this is a continuation or sort of a build-up to the Carnival Road March that's scheduled for this weekend, this Saturday. And so while you had the King and Queen competition as the first leg, so to speak, over the weekend, we are now having the mass camps, right? And there are 3 nights set aside for mass camps, which is another part of the judging process that goes into the overall winner at the end of the Carnival Road March on Saturday. So this is a huge part of the revelry that we're seeing, where you have these individual bands, they're doing their formations, they're, in some cases, wearing their costumes and making sure that, you know, everything fits and everything works and everything is sturdy and what have you.
Yeah.
And so there were a number of locations visited last night. Again, there are 3 nights that have been set aside for this particular activity: Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I'm curious to know what is the reason for judging the mass camps ahead of the actual carnival show?
Well, because as I mentioned to you, it's a process. It has several phases, so to speak. I mentioned the carnival
King and Queen. I
and then
know
you
that
have
makes sense to
the
me.
judging for, well, the partial judging, if I may, because this all adds up to perhaps a cumulative score, so to speak.
Okay.
Right. So this is part of it.
So
And
I
then-
imagine during the mass camps, the judges are looking for excitement. They're looking for
Yeah,
that
there are
energy.
There's a criteria,
Right.
a list of perhaps requirements that you need to comply with in terms of what they are looking for. And of course, energy is a huge part of it. You
Yes.
come out there, you need to be able to, you know, be on 100 full max, right?
Yeah.
And so this is what we're looking at. This also goes into the juve. Now, the juve is not a part of the judging or anything. It's just part of the climax building up to Saturday, right? And so we're in that week. We're full swing, you know.
And
we
you
know that Dwayne Moody
yes, I was going to
is
say.
providing the coverage for us. And I want to go on a limb here to say that as of tonight, we'll also be covering it live. I know they were off to sort of a late start last night. So a decision has been made sort of informally that as of tonight, we'll go live, and so that our viewers would be able to catch what's taking place on our Facebook page.
What I love about the coverage is that you're seeing these performers in their lineup doing their choreography, but you also see spectators on the side already enjoying the show that's presented. And as you mentioned, that is just a part of the build-up to the carnival, which is exactly what you'd see on Carnival Day. You'd see these bands take their performances to the streets, and hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, on the sidewalks just looking and admiring the display.
If you've ever experienced mass camp in person, when you look at the coverage that we provide, it's sort of hasty because you have to go from one location to another, and you're essentially moving with the judges because the judges are on a specific timeline, you know, that they need to be able to go from, let's say, Black Pearl to Mother Nature, so on and so forth.
So with that short space of time that the judges are there, you have to give it your best.
Yes, certainly. And the other thing about mass camps that needs to be acknowledged at this point too is the level of police security, because we've had events in the past where, you know, if I'm not mistaken, perhaps a year or two ago, there was a shooting incident at a mass camp, and that threatened to dampen the entire spirit, that festive atmosphere. And so this time around, the police department has stepped up to say, well, you know what, we'll provide the kind of security for these respective activities. All
right, well, I know that we will be providing coverage of that and much more, leading directly into the Carnival Road March on Saturday, which, as you know, Isani, we always have presence there.
Live
we
coverage,
will be
actually.
having live coverage. Dwayne Moody and I believe Anlin Apollonio will be there giving you the sights and sounds of Carnival 2023.
And I think since we're having this conversation, the fact that you have a lot of buildings, public places and spaces that are festooned with decorations, the red, blue and white, you know. I was coming to work this morning. There's a famous aerial shot of the flag monument, the roundabout at the Freetown Road, that when the sun is out and it's beaming and the wind is blowing, it's magnificent, it's beautiful. But this morning, because of the overnight showers, everything was wet and dreary. You know, that rich blue, red and white, everything just looks dark.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I mean, you know, that shouldn't dampen the spirit.
Yeah.
It's just the weather that's passing through. We always say rain don't stop the reggae jam.
It does
but in
not.
this case, it's not a reggae jam, it's a soca fete, right? So
Yeah, and you know what? We were also out district yesterday, Sani, and one thing I always enjoy seeing, aside from Christmas decorations, is when homes and yards are decorated with Belizean flag and really showing that patriotism and civic pride. So
but
we passed a lot of homes that looked like that.
It shouldn't only be during this time of year. I would implore upon my fellow Belizeans, and then I should be able to lead by some example with this as well. A Belizean flag should be, you know, flown from every house. As long as you're able to afford it. It doesn't have to be the original one, as long as it's not a yellow man. Get them in the proper colors, right?
Yes.
A mestizo and a black man, and we're cool with that. You have that flowing off your house or whatever all year round, and that's the spirit of being Belizean.
I agree with you completely. But we're going to move over to our eye-opener this morning. And as you know, it's taken from dailyom.com, and it goes like this. The beauty of being lost is the same thing that makes it scary. We must look within ourselves to find the way. When we are lost, we typically look at a map to figure out where we are and how to get to our chosen destination. This works well, assuming there is a map of the territory in which we find ourselves and we know our destination. However, this is not always the case. At this time in human history, we are all venturing into uncharted territory, whether we know it or not. Not knowing exactly where we are, we find ourselves unsure of which way to go, and eventually the uneasy feeling that we are lost presents itself. The beauty of being lost is the same thing that makes it scary. It asks us to look within ourselves to find a way. If we have no map, we must go on instinct, relying on our inner compass to show us which way to go. This can be scary because so much seems to be riding on it. We fear we might go too far in the wrong direction or become paralyzed and make no progress at all. Yet, this is the very challenge we need to develop our ability to trust ourselves, learning to be okay with being lost and trusting that we will be guided. We begin our journey. We are learning to feel our own way, rather than following an established path. And in doing so, we learn to trust ourselves. It is this trust that connects us to the universe and reminds us that no matter how lost we feel as we journey, on the inner level, we are already home.
Forgive me, I'll be the first to say that I don't see beauty in being lost. But I'll say this much. But I'll say this much. When you find yourself lost, either physically, like geographically, like you're lost, or figuratively, like, you know, you don't know where to turn to, which way to go, where you are in terms of a particular situation. We always need to find time to be able to collect ourselves, in a manner of speaking, gather our bearings, to understand, okay, you know what? This is the situation at hand. Let me not panic. Let me try to figure out the most logical way, perhaps, to either approach the situation or find the direction that takes me out of this particular mess, so to speak. Right? And so I think for me, that is the prevailing thought that I take away from the eye-opener. It's the fact that one needs to be able to gather him or herself, get your bearings together, and be able to navigate out of a situation. It's not all situation that we'll have a clear path that says, okay, I'll go from point A to point B and then onward from there because it's written or it's there in front of us. Some situations we begin having a plan, having a direction, and somewhere along the way, you know, things get thrown topsy-turvy, you lose your sense of direction or your bearings, and then you need to be able to recollect.
Okay, so I had two thoughts when I read this eye-opener. The first one was I studied psychology in junior college, and I remember, excuse me, I remember this psychologist that we studied on, Erik Erikson, and he had this theory of psychosocial development that included stages of development. And one of them included something similar to being lost and trying to find yourselves. And that was the fifth stage, which is identity versus role confusion. And that usually takes place in adolescent age. And that's where you're trying to figure out your purpose, you know? And in some ways, you feel lost. And it's so funny because I remember feeling exactly that way as an adolescent, going into my teenage years, trying to find out what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? There are so many options. There are so many things that I'm good at, but what am I supposed to do? You know? And I think it goes back to the eye opener with allowing your instinct to be that map. And that's the beauty of it. It becomes scary, of course, because you don't want to make that mistake. You don't want to go with your instinct and turn out being something that you regret. But that's the beauty of it, because it might also work out. So that's the first thing that I thought of. The second thing that I thought of was actually my bright side from last week. And I think that that is the perfect example of this eye-opener. It told the story of an entrepreneur named Abigail Wood, and she started her career in financing. She studied everything that she needed to work in the field of banking. That was accounting, and it really seemed that she was destined to be in this role. But something within her told her instinctively that that was not the place that she should be. She felt lost, and so she had to follow her instinctive map, if you will. And now she owns her own business. Now she's not working at a bank. And I imagine that that was really, really scary, because it's an unconventional path to take. A lot of us look at the field of banking or financing as something stable, or just simply having an 8 to 5, Isani, as something stable, right? Yeah. So it's a risk that you're taking when you venture off into having a small business and being an entrepreneur. That's the scary part. But the beauty of it is when it works out, you know? So that's what I thought of when I read this eye-opener. And I'm hoping that there is something that you were able to take from this eye-opener, whether it's just a message of believing in yourself, or knowing that we're all at some point struggling with finding that right path. And we all feel lost at some point, but we all have our own inner maps that we can use to guide us to where we need to be.
Sounds almost poetic.
You know what, Isani? I was told I'm known for that. But we're going to move over to our weather report and forecast. And as you know, we provide you a daily weather update from the National Meteorological Service. And we will be providing that now through an audio presentation. So we will be airing that now. All right, we are having some technical difficulties here, but I will be providing you with the weather update today. The general situation we can expect is for relatively moist and unstable conditions. It will continue to prevail over our area. The 24-hour forecast is set for sunny with cloudy spells today, along with a few showers, thunderstorms, and periods of light rain, mainly over northern and western areas this morning, with showers and thunderstorms becoming isolated this afternoon. Cloudy at times tonight, with a few showers or thunderstorms, mostly over the south. Our outlook through to Thursday and Thursday night is for partly cloudy with generally isolated showers and thunderstorms on Thursday. Then a few showers and thunderstorms will be affecting most areas on Thursday night. The temperatures we can look out for is 88 degrees in the highs along the coast, inland 93 degrees Fahrenheit, and up in the hills 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And the lows tonight, we're looking forward to the 81 degrees along the coast, 74 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 68 degrees Fahrenheit up in the Maya Mountains. All right, the marine condition update. The winds will blow from the east to southeast at 5 to 15 knots, and the sea state will be light chop. Waves will be 2 to 4 feet. All right. That is our weather update from the National Meteorological Service. And I know that we will be having Chief with us here this morning so we can get a more in-depth and in-person weather update from him. But we're going to move over to our show lineup this morning, and we have 3 great conversations for you. Starting things off with exactly what I mentioned. We'll be joined by the Chief Meteorologist, Ronald Gordon, to talk to us about the heat records and the hurricane season.
Our second conversation this morning will be a panel discussion on St. George's Key Day and, of course, the Battle of St. George's Key in 1798.
And to, I'd say, complement our What's Buzzing segment, it's all about Carnival season, so we'll be joined by 2 DJs from Evolution Sounds to talk to us about the top soca hits for the Carnival season. You don't want to miss that. So we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we will be talking to the Chief Meteorologist about heat records and the hurricane season. Stay with us.
For a smart share plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. So get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
Here you go, babe.
Thanks, babe. How did it go? Good?
It was good.
God, I think it'll get hot out there.
I think I should go close the window.
Don't let this happen to you. At Design Depot, we have Oran windows, exactly what you need to weather any storm and keep you safe. With Oran, you get strength, durability, and security. Oran features a strong double latch that closes securely, all at an affordable price only at Design Depot. With Oran, you'll always be safe.
Carnival Association, Empire Entertainment, and Travelers Liquor presents the return of the last laps inside the Marion Jones Sporting Complex. It's all going down on Saturday, September 9th. That's right, on Carnival Day, where the carnival will be finishing inside the stadium for the last laps and the judging of the 9 competing bands. Come on out and cheer on your favorite band, and immediately thereafter, you get to get off the bleacher and come on onto the grounds for the first ever Rags and Flags party, featuring DJ Drea, all the way from Trinidad and Tobago, DJ Sambo, and it's all hosted by DJ Dixie and Yannicka Matthews. Giveaways will be fully loaded, and food and drinks will be on sale. Gates open from 3 p.m. and this party lasts until 8 p.m. It's the Rags and Flags party, Saturday, September 9th, inside the Marion Jones Sporting Complex. Marion Jones Sporting Complex. See you there.
After a rough week of school, Jake and his friends decide to treat themselves to frozen coffee. And since they don't have cash on them, they decide to use eCash. With eCash's geolocation feature, Jake can easily find the nearest coffee spot. With eCash's built-in option to split bills, Jake can pay the bill and his friends can reimburse their portion of the bill. Jake scans the merchant's code and confirms payment. Jake then views his transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the split the bill button where he selects the evenly option to evenly split the bill. The application splits the bill automatically. His friends receive and accept the request. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash makes Jake enjoy his digital lifestyle.
It's Carnival time, and once again, Channel 5 will bring you all the fun and excitement of this year's Carnival Road March. Our live coverage starts at 1 p.m. on Saturday, September 9th, with highlights of the King and Queen competition, mass camps, and Juve, leading up to this year's spectacular Road March. Don't miss all the sights and sounds of Carnival 2023 right here on Channel 5 and on our Facebook and YouTube pages.
Welcome back. We are having our first conversation for the morning, and it's all about heat records and the hurricane season. And we were joined by the professionals themselves. We have with us Chief Meteorologist Ronald Gordon, as well as a Senior Climatologist, Shayna Young. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us. You are no stranger to Channel 5. We know last season we had you guys as our official weather presenters as well. So we're happy to have you here with us.
Glad to be here.
Good morning. Good morning.
Glad to be here too. Thank you.
Perhaps we can start with the obvious. We are in the hurricane season, and as you would know, Chief, we are approaching what is considered one of the most active parts of the season. What would you say we should be looking out for at this time?
Yes, indeed. As you rightly said, we are approaching the peak of the hurricane season. We know that September 10th is the climatological peak of the season. So we do expect activity to pick up. Actually, it has been picking up already. We know that we have, I think it's now 12 named storms so far. 3 hurricanes and 2 major hurricanes. Well, let me not get ahead of myself. We're expecting 2 major hurricanes. No, sorry, we had 2 major hurricanes, correction, and we're expecting another one to form very soon from Lee, which is in the Atlantic, no? So things are picking up, and we expect it to continue that way. Sorry.
This is set against the backdrop of it being an El Nino year, correct?
That's the situation that we're looking at. So we did know that from the start of the season, there was these 2 conflicting forces.
Yeah.
We had an El Nino year, but at the same time, we had a very warm Atlantic Ocean, actually much warmer than normal, up to about 2 degrees Celsius in some areas. So the Atlantic Ocean being warm would tend to fuel more storms, while the El Nino will suppress it due to the wind shear. And so what we have seen so far is that the warm ocean waters are actually winning in this case, in the Atlantic, and so we have above normal activity.
And I imagine the warmer waters would be due to climate change.
That is indeed a possibility. We certainly cannot say so from one year, but when you look at the trend, we are seeing that there is that trend of warmer ocean waters indeed, which is indeed likely linked to climate change.
What are we looking at in terms of these possible weather systems that are forming to affect Belize in the next few months towards the end of the season itself?
Well, one of the things that I think most of us are aware of is that September and October are the typical months for us where we get more activity. So certainly we need to be very vigilant at this time of the year. Currently, in terms of the near-term forecast or the short-term forecast, there is nothing imminent for us. We don't have any imminent threat, but there is always a possibility, so we need to be on the lookout. And of course, we have until October. November, actually, we had Hurricane Lisa last year in November, so certainly we cannot lesser guards zone at this time.
You know, Chief, I have to mention it because I feel like the times when we see and perhaps even appreciate the work that you guys do the most is during the hurricane season. I remember just last year when we had Hurricane Lisa and everyone was glued to their devices trying to get that official update from the National Meteorological Service. So before I even go into the work that you guys do, I want to extend an appreciation for the work that you guys do. Secondly, I'm curious to know, how is the Meteorological Service able to monitor and predict hurricanes? What are the technologies that you guys use that gives you the ability to track these storms?
Well, if I may, first of all, thank you very much. We do appreciate the support that we get, of course, from the public at this time of the year. In terms of monitoring and tracking, we do have assistance. Of course, the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida is a regional organization in such a way that the World Met Organization actually has an arrangement that they are the agency for this region to support us in terms of tracking hurricanes. Now, from a local standpoint, certainly we do have our expertise. We do have our satellite imagery that we look at. We have our local radar. We have the numerical weather prediction models that we also look at. And certainly, when the storm is very near us, we have a vast network of weather stations across the country to give us information where the strong winds are occurring, the heavy rainfall, and so forth, so that we can inform persons accordingly. Certainly, also, before the storms hit, we actually use our expertise to look at the local weather in terms of our understanding of the local climate to determine where the major impacts would be from the system. So certainly, I think that we do have the equipment. And of course, we have the expertise in-house to monitor and track these systems.
It's interesting that you would say that, because oftentimes when we look at weather systems that are imminent, you have persons who rely on information that is not localized. They're looking at information online from the Weather Channel or somewhere else. It's not to say that the information isn't accurate, but it's not speaking to where we are and what the possible effects of it would be when it comes our way. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, certainly. I do acknowledge that there are many sources of information or sources of information when it comes to weather. There's official sources, and of course there's the layman out there providing information. And we can accept that, and certainly I understand that folks will be listening to different sources. However, as you rightly mentioned, the local expertise is very important because we know the weather situation locally. We know the effects that the system would have in different areas of the country. We know where the vulnerability are, where the risk is for certain hazards. So it's very important that our residents pay attention to what's occurring or what's coming from us at the National Met Service when a storm is making landfall across the country.
I asked you previously about the ways that you guys tracked hurricanes and storms coming. Are there any advancements in technology that you guys look out for or would like to have here in Belize to further assist you in the work that you're doing?
Well, I'm going to say that tracking hurricanes, forecasting hurricanes is a collaborative effort. So I have said this before and I'm going to repeat it. Every contribution from every Met Service across the region factors in to the improvement in weather prediction and especially in hurricane track prediction. So when a hurricane is approaching, for example, the Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida would request from us extra soundings, that's the weather balloons. So normally we release those 2 times a day, but if a hurricane is very near, especially if it's threatening the US, they would ask us to send these balloons every 6 hours, and that information is fed into the global models that actually predict these systems. So we are contributing, and it's, like I said, an effort across the region, everybody providing information, observations, so that these models can be improved. And even the research involves people from different areas going to studies at universities, doing research and improving hurricane prediction so that these models can improve. And what we have seen over the years is that the track prediction actually has improved significantly. So in the past, we we had to perhaps be alerting the entire country when a system is perhaps over the Northwest Caribbean Sea. But nowadays we have models that can actually tell us this system is not coming here. We have more confidence that it may go to the Yucatan or northern Yucatan and so forth. So we know that the track prediction has improved significantly over the past several years.
It's also interesting that you would say that, because my mind goes to last year's experience with Hurricane Lisa, where perhaps a certain path or a trajectory was predicted initially, and then because of the erratic nature of the system, it kept changing where the landfall would have been. And I think for some people, it kind of created some confusion, because on one hand, we're saying it's not going to go there, it's going to go elsewhere. And then we come back and say it's going to go somewhere else, and so on and so forth.
Let me address that, Isani. I think it's a very important point. Let's put it in perspective. Belize is a very small country.
Yes.
So within 36 hours, there was a 25 miles error, I believe, in terms of where the center would have made landfall. The initial forecast, I think, if I am not mistaken, was about a day or two ahead. I was saying near Dangriga. And there was a shift just 25 miles north of that. That's a minute, in the grand scheme of things, that's a minute distance, a very small distance. So in the past, those errors could have been like 200 miles.
Yeah.
We are down to about 25 miles. That's a big improvement, and we need to acknowledge that. Another very important thing that I want our residents to be to take note of: do not focus on the point of landfall.
Yeah.
The hurricane is not a single point. There will be effects out of that area. So I know that the media, I'm not blaming you all, but I know that we have pressure from media sources to tell us where exactly the center will make landfall. And that's very bad, because we cannot be focusing on that exact center. The system is not a point. You have strong winds. Yes, it's a broad system. You have strong winds far away from the center. You have heavy rainfall, potential flooding, storm surge. So it's important not to only focus on the very, very center of the system.
I'm glad that we're having this conversation, because I believe that it can lead directly into how to prepare for a hurricane. And as Isani mentioned, a lot of times we focus on what the meteorologist said, where exactly the hurricane is going to make landfall. And if you notice, in last year's case, it didn't really touch on the southern parts of the country. So they were quite enjoying normal weather while Belize City was weathering a Category 1 storm. But before we continue into the conversation of hurricanes, I want to take things over to Shayna Young. You are a senior climatologist. Shayna, let's talk about your role and what you do as a senior climatologist.
Okay, so like Mr. Gordon mentioned, across the country we have several different weather stations, and like he's mentioning, some of the tools that we have to track hurricanes and other weather events include the data. Models, satellite, other stuff can tell you that this is occurring, but without the actual ground data, then it's very hard for us to actually verify what actually occurred. So in my role, and also the role of the section that I manage, we are the ones who after the data is received, we verify that information, and we use those information for verifying events, but also, like Mr. Gordon said, ensure that those information that are fed into global models are very accurate. And then we also keep track of those information over a long term. He mentioned, how do we know that this is our climate? It's with those same data that we have collected over a period of years. For us, and also the World Meteorological Organization, we have what we call a climate normal. And you mentioned climate change. So climate change is normally like on a longer term, but for us, we can determine whether or not the climate is changing in Belize over a 30-year period. So those information accumulated, whether it's rainfall, temperature, or otherwise, over a 30-year period, would allow us to determine whether or not the climate is changing, but also know what our climate is and what we can expect for whichever variable.
So what has been the most recent pattern that you've observed? If you look at that 30-year spread, has there been any significant developments in terms of our weather conditions and state?
In terms of temperature, we have been observing an increasing trend across the country. Some areas there are variations, but it has been generally increasing across all areas of the country. In terms of rainfall, the rainfall has been more sporadic. That is one of the variables that is harder to determine, even with the best available technology. It's very hard to pinpoint, especially the distribution of the rainfall. But for some areas in the north, that rainfall has been less over the area. As you know, we are prone to drought events historically, but more recently we have seen an increase in those drought events, and those are just as a result of what is expected for our region, but also for Belize in the long term, that the rainfall amounts would be less. Now that also varies, because it might be less, but even though it's less, persons would normally associate that with drought, but it could be a flood event. You just get a large amount of rainfall in one single day, and you could get the same amount for the entire month, but because it occurred in one day, it leads to a flood, while we would be saying that it's below normal rainfall, and most persons would be confused, like, no, I had a flood. We had several flood events. So how are you saying that the rainfall is below normal? But it's when and how that rainfall occurred that determines what people feel. We know what the climate is saying, that, you know, we're in a drought, we're in El Nino conditions, but other persons on the ground might say, but it's raining every day, but it's not raining as it should for certain areas.
As a climatologist, the person collecting the data and making these observations, is there anything that concerns you as it relates to what you have gathered on for Belize? I say this because I'm thinking of recent news that took place weather-wise that was covering extreme heat waves in Europe, where it's constant triple-digit, even in the United States, unbearable heat waves. Is this something that we should be concerned for here in Belize?
Definitely, like I mentioned, overall the global temperatures are increasing, but also for us locally, the average temperature has increased. We haven't seen a decreasing trend in terms of temperature over the area. So as the earth on a whole warms up, that is trickled down to different areas. Some areas might be more extreme than others. For instance, like you mentioned, Europe, they have two extremes, either extreme cold or extreme heat, but their normal in terms of extremes is much higher than us. For us, the highest in terms of Celsius, the highest temperature that we have recorded is about 43.5. In those areas, they get 50 degrees or more, but definitely there is an increase in trend, and as you rightly mentioned, we have seen an increase in heat waves. So those are what can be expected in the future, especially if we don't get control over the global temperature and limit the warming that we are currently experiencing. Then it's going to be a lot worse. We're going to get a lot more extreme heat, but also drought, because all of them are interrelated. The temperature affects the rainfall and others. It's a climate. It's a cycle in the climate system. So while there are different extreme events, all of them are related in some form.
But that's where it gets a bit trickier or questionable, because you look at, for instance, the COP series of meetings, right, where there is a target being set. Well, all of these countries need to be able to bring down emissions and this and that and the other. But it seems idealistic more than it seems practical, because we're looking at a scenario where one thing affects the other. You just mentioned it, weather is cyclical, so it's what we do now that, you know, impacts what happens tomorrow, so to speak. But when you look at what these other developed countries, these like China, the United States, and all of these major countries that are producing and are using fuel and what have you, fossil fuels, it's almost romantic to think that they would actually reduce their emissions to a point where it is manageable, where we can reach that target that we set as a global movement, so to speak.
You said a mouthful, but it's very it also points back to the role of the Met Service. One of the things that most persons don't know is that we are a part of that discussion, especially when it comes to the climate science. And like you rightly mentioned, it's kind of like counterproductive. The world has set global targets, but it needs the contribution of all partners. Belize and other Caribbean and SIDS are very small. We are very small emitters, but the larger countries, like you rightly mentioned, need to do their part. It is doable to reduce emissions, to achieve the Paris Agreement within this decade. Actually, it's a critical decade, but it would take a lot of effort from the others. And there are all the technology and everything that is available. So if they want to do it, they can actually do it. But like you rightly mentioned, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And that is something that we constantly, not for the COP, but before COP, the IPCC, that is what the Met Service is a part of. That is the body that actually does the assessment. So with the data, like I mentioned, that we collect, those are fed into those models, the climate models. So there's weather and there's also climate models, but it's the same data that we collect, the daily observations that are fed into those systems, and that is what they use to do climate prediction. So while we collect the data, we also are the ones who verify that information that are produced by IPCC and actually use it to determine whether or not climate change is occurring. And we use those to not advise, but provide the available science so that those persons from the bigger countries can see what the science is saying and make the right decision. Our role is to provide them with the information, and it's up to them to take that information and to act on it. And it is possible, but we are making slow progress towards achieving that, but we're very slow in that process, and there's a lot that needs to happen, especially in the next 5 years, if we're supposed to meet our global targets, because if it's not done within the next 5 years, then...
This is a critical 5.
Yes, up until 2030, what we do now would affect what how severe things are going to be in the future. So we still have a few years to make make a significant impact in terms of reducing our emissions, which in turn reduces the global warming and others that affects the different extreme weather events.
Bleaching and then all of these other phenomena.
Because it's not 1.5 for the corals, it's actually 1.2. At 1.2, majority of the corals will be dead. So 1.5 is just for the survival of all Caribbean SIDS and other SIDS across the world and other vulnerable countries in the world.
That sounds
interesting but scary.
It is.
Scary. I want to go back to the conversation of heat waves, though, because we did experience our own heat wave here in Belize this year. Shayna, is there any data or history that you know of where Belize experienced a severe heat wave that impacted the change of our climate or of our country in general?
So most persons earlier this year, I think about maybe May or April, have been complaining of the heat.
Yeah.
And since April and June, we have been experiencing, like you said, multiple heat waves. And most persons were saying that I have never felt this hot, or, you know, this is the longest I've felt the temperature being so high. But it wasn't actually the highest in terms of the month. In 1995, which was another El Nino year, was the highest year on record for most areas that we did have an extreme number of heat waves. I think for this year we had one location in the north had about 28 heat wave days, consecutive days with temperatures above a certain threshold, but the actual highest we have observed is 31 days. And those extremes vary by location. So in the south, maybe it might be 20 is the highest consecutive heat days, but in central and especially inland areas, it can be a lot higher. But in 1995 was the record of 31. And so this year, even though it was hot, we didn't exceed that record, but we did have some locations that met the second highest record. So it was indeed warm, but not the hottest we have experienced. But I also want to mention that in terms of the days, from day to day, the temperature that we can expect varies.
Yeah.
So again, with climatology, over a period of years, that the highest temperature for like today, for instance, it's September 5th, that would that varies over time, but we keep track of what was the highest temperature that has ever been recorded on September 5th from the time we started to monitor. And in May and also in June, the daily extremes for certain days did occur. So maybe it was, I think in Belmopan, the highest would have been like around 37 degrees Celsius. It did reach 38, but overall, it's not the hottest.
It has been.
Yeah,
And I
for
understand,
Belmopan.
I understand and acknowledge all of that.
But it's
But
still
from
hot.
a layman's perspective,
It's what we feel.
yes, we just simply say it's hot as hell.
But for the benefit of our viewers that don't understand what exactly is a heat wave, because a heat wave isn't just a hot day. Could you explain what determines or what is a heat wave, and what are the impacts in our weather conditions that comes along with a heat wave?
So there are several different classification or definition for heat waves and also heat wave days. So for you to consider a day a hot day, you would have to pass what we call the 95th percentile. So basically, out of all the records that we have, the highest 5% of that maximum temperature, that is the 95th percentile. So there are different thresholds. For some areas, that 95th percentile might be 32 degrees. So anything above 32 degrees is called a hot day. And if that threshold is exceeded for a minimum of 2 days, so today and tomorrow we get 32 or above, then that is what we would call a heat wave event. So heat wave event can be as minimum as 2 days, or it can be longer. But the minimum requirement that has to be met is 2 days of exceeding that threshold, and like I mentioned, it varies for different parts of the country. But once you have at least 2 consecutive days of that threshold being passed, then that's a heat wave event.
That's why the classification would be specific if you're saying Belmopan is experiencing
yeah,
a
compared to
heat wave.
Belize City, and yes, it varies.
So the entire country can't say that they...
You could do the average, but each, like you mentioned about what persons feel, it might be hot for Belmopan, but it might not be as hot for certain areas. And during the heat wave events, persons in different parts of the country felt the heat wave at different times, because maybe while the central regions were experiencing heat wave maybe at the beginning of the month, it wasn't until the end of the month for the south, so it varies based on what is occurring in each of those locations.
Have you guys collected data on how often Belize has experienced heat waves, and what are the most prone areas to experience that heat wave?
Well,
because we always say Belmopan is like a stove or an oven, you know?
Well, most persons always say that, and it's most of the central inland areas, because climatologically that is the hottest part of the country in terms of the extremes. So it can be the coolest, because at nighttime, since it's inland and you know other effects, it can get cool, and especially with the mountains and stuff like that. But in terms of the daytime, it is one of the areas, Belmopan Central Farm, that is the hottest part of the country. So that is why, even though other areas do experience heat wave, do get hot days and even extreme hot days, those locations are the one that will feel it the most, because they climatological are the areas that get the highest temperatures, because they're inland, they're away from the sea, they don't get as much breeze, that the temperature might be hot, but you might not feel as hot if you're along the coast compared to those inland. If there's not a lot of breeze, then they will feel that 35 degrees, even though Belize City might experience the same 35, it feels different for both.
Because we got some winds.
Yes.
And you know what? Those folks inland, they could have told us that too.
Yes, because it's always, not, except if you have a thunderstorm, you know, then it's very gusty, but most times it's not as, the winds aren't as strong as coastal.
Well, before we go back to the hurricane conversation, I just want to close off the heat wave portion by the advice that you'd give as someone in the meteorological service when they are experiencing heat waves. What are advices that we should take on for ourselves to stay cool?
Okay, so I know that we are working individuals, so one of the, especially when we issue a heat alert, one of the advice that we normally give is to avoid outdoor activities. That might be difficult for some persons, but if they do need to be outside, then it's best that they use proper gear, protective gear, and stay hydrated. Because while we might not notice, or sometimes persons would tend to drink water when they actually feel hot, we are actually losing water from before that. So it's very important to stay hydrated and to also look out for others, especially those in the elderly communities, because if it might be hot for us, imagine them, and then they're less, in some cases, some of them are not mobile, or they don't have persons that are there to like tend to them, to put on a fan, to give them water. So it's very important for us to look out for each other and check on both the elderly and also young when we are experiencing heat wave events, but just most importantly to stay hydrated.
Yeah. All right. Well, Chief, we're going to go back to you since we are in the hurricane season. Let's talk preparations that are essential for every person. Even if you heard from the Met Service that the hurricane is not going to make landfall directly in your area, what are the core preparation tips that you would give our viewers right now?
Well, first of all, I would say I would be happy to have Nemo here with me, but they are not here. They are normally the agency that provides this type of information. But from the Met Service perspective, one of the main advice is always for persons to have a hurricane plan, families to have a hurricane plan, even organizations to have a plan. And that plan is very important because it tells you what you would do in the event that you need to prepare or the hurricane is coming. One of the main things is to know if you need to evacuate, where you will go, what route you will take, and perhaps what shelter you will go to. Maybe you might not need a shelter. You might go to a family inland, so you need to know where. Another thing, of course, is that we advise people to do is to stock up on basic supplies. So canned goods is one of the things that we advise because it's non-perishable, at least until it doesn't reach the expiry date, no? And to have that on hand to prepare in case you need to weather the storm for a few days, or you may be in a shelter and there's no access to food or water. So certainly you need to stock up on those things in the event that you need to the hurricane comes our way.
Lastly, where can our viewers access timely information from the National Meteorological Service as it relates to hurricane watches or simply just weather developments?
Well, one of our main ways, or the main ways that we disseminate information, is via our website. Our website is www.nms.gov.bz. That's where you will find the latest information on any weather event, whether it be hurricane, the day-to-day weather forecasts, different forecasts for different sectors. So visit that page. It's full of information, very useful information as well. We do have a Facebook account. I think it's NMS.Belize. I'm not sure. I can't remember the exact name. I'm not a Facebook person. But we do have a Facebook account that we keep updated for persons who may need information. And of course, you can always call us. We have folks that call us regularly at times. They can also call us now. So different ways of getting out the information. We have recently implemented the Common Alerting Protocol. It is still a work in progress, but the National Met Service has a live CAP feed at the moment. So we will be sharing that CAP feed where you can get alerts as well through that media. And hopefully in the future we can get our local phone companies and our television stations or radio stations to subscribe to that account and to be able to carry live alerts as they occur to the public.
All right. This is my official last question, and it might come with some humor. But Chief, I believe a lot of people, our viewers, may want to know, can we expect some rain for the carnival upcoming here this Saturday and the tent parade? They might want to know. It might be too early to predict, but do you have anything that you can share with us?
Well, from a weather perspective, I was looking at our forecast and I saw that we are going for some moderate to light rain during the next few days. So there's a possibility that you may get a few showers or two during the carnival, but I don't think it's going to be that significant. That persons won't go out and enjoy themselves.
Well, as Isani said,
but
the
stay
rain
tuned.
Can't stop the Soca Fete.
Can't stop the Soca Fete.
Yeah,
all right.
Juve Carnival.
We want to thank you guys so much for joining us and for providing us with these important information that is also useful to our viewers, to ourselves here on set. We appreciate it. And we look forward to having future conversations as it relates to the weather and the climate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it's all about the St. George's Key Day panel. Don't go away.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Not only do we have the most reliable ferry service between San Pedro, Keycocker, and Belize City, we also have a pretty awesome crew. Check us out at sprinter.bz.
It's Carnival time, and once again, Channel 5 will bring you all the fun and excitement of this year's Carnival Road March. Our live coverage starts at 1 p.m. on Saturday, September 9th, with highlights of the King and Queen competition, mass camps, and Juve, leading up to this year's spectacular Road March. Don't miss all the sights and sounds of Carnival 2023 right here on Channel 5 and on our Facebook and YouTube pages.
Get ready for an epic back to school with the latest tech tools from Cellular World. Go back to school looking cool with specialized tech tools and bundles designed to suit every student's and teacher's needs. Hurry in and take advantage of massive discounts on our printer bundles starting at only $139. Tablet bundles starting at only $189. Plus, we have incredible offers on laptops and Optiplex bundles. But wait, there's more. Shop with us now and get a free gift, including backpacks and other cool free stuff with selected purchases. Visit us today to shop our selection of phones starting at only $49, TVs at just $5.19, earbuds, smartwatches, power banks, monitors, office chairs, inks, and so much more. When it comes to tech, we've got it all. Get the latest gadgets, hottest deals, and unbeatable prices for back to school. Only at your #1 tech provider, Cellular World. Stop in to shop with us in Belize City, Belmopan, and San Pedro. Or WhatsApp us at 615-5141 to shop virtually.
Honda Nave, a partner you can rely on. Benquip, equipment, parts, service.
Welcome back. Our second segment this morning, we have been joined by panelists who will be discussing with us the significance of St. George's Key Day, that was September 10th, 1798, and what actually transpired that gave way to Belize eventually becoming an independent nation. We have been joined via Zoom by the Director of the Institute for Social and Cultural Research, Rolando Cocom. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Isani and Sabrina, and good morning to all the audiences online and also watching on their televisions. Good morning to everyone.
We've also been joined by Public History Officer at the Institute for Social and Cultural Research, Giovanni Pinello. Good morning, Mr. Pinello.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Sabrina. Good morning, Isani. Good morning, our audience.
Let's begin by first discussing the Battle of St. George's Key. What transpired on September 10th, 1798, amidst the fact that some people would say it was a full-on battle and some would describe it as a mere skirmish. What actually took place on that day and its significance in terms of Belizean history?
Thank you, Isani. So, I mean, do we go right precisely to the date?
That's fine. We could start there if you're comfortable starting there.
Right. So, I mean, some of the audience might benefit from knowing some of the larger context of what was happening at the time. So we're talking about the year 1798, so that's more than 200 years ago.
Yeah.
How do we interpret an event from that past? Well, first off, the students of history, we tend to think about information in two sources. There's what we call primary sources, and then there's secondary sources. Primary sources are documents that were recorded at the time of an event. So you're at a big festival, you take out your phone, you record a live, you write a WhatsApp to your friends, this is what's happening, I'm here. That becomes a primary source material of that event.
Right.
Back in the day, there was no live feature, there's no WhatsApp, but there were written reports that the British took, that the Spanish took, and those are now lodged at archives. These are national repositories that are tasked with preserving these documents. And in Belize, we have the Belize Archives and Record Services that is located here in Belmopan. And they have in their possession copies of the reports that the British commanders, Barrow, Captain Moss, made after the Battle of St. George's Key. And they also have records from the Spanish side, looking at what was being reported throughout the course of the battle, and that's more than, I want to say, more than 1,000 individual documents.
Wow.
That is available at the archives, and there's been some very good research on that, leading to some translation, which we could get into this morning, just to give you an insight. But that's the way we do history, and your conclusions of history should be based on how reliable, how valid, how well articulated your arguments from these sources of history are. Into the context precisely now, we're saying that there was a Spanish and British imperial rivalry over who owns this land that we now inhabit, that we call Belize. And it traces back to the time of Columbus, who arrives on this side of the world thinking it's India, claiming it for Spain, and then resulting in one treaty called the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494, that they declared that almost all of the Americas belongs to Spain, and a small section, and then to the west, from Brazil, a small section, a portion of what is now Brazil, would be Portuguese territory, and that is why, for instance, in Brazil today, they speak Portuguese. And all the other territories were considered to be Spanish territory. Of course, other emerging imperial nations, like France, like the UK, and the Dutch, see this as an opportunity that they're missing out on, and they begin to attack the Spanish vessels, begin to also claim their own territories, and the Caribbean, and in particular, becomes this region of imperial rivalry, and you're seeing different imperial nations taking over, for instance, Jamaica at different times. And in the case of what is now Belize, there's a group of different groups, rather, of logwood cutters and mahogany cutters into the 1700s that begin to occupy this land. And there's ongoing rivalry over de facto control over Belize. And so the Spaniards did come into this territory before, attempted to colonize and Christianize the Maya, but largely unsuccessful because of the resistance that the Maya would put up. And then into the 1700s, due to different treaties that are signed, and I like this abbreviation that Mr. Pinello introduced me to, called the PVC. So you have lagwood, mahogany, and PVC. Not PVC pipe, but the Treaty of Paris, the Treaty of Versailles, and Convention of London. These are in 1763, 1783, and 1786, essentially demarcating different areas where the British were being allowed to extract logwood, and later in the Convention of London to also extract mahogany. But the British were always overextending themselves beyond these limits, were always doing things that were not agreed upon, for instance, constructing buildings, exercising judicial authorities. These were all things that were forbidden by these treaties. And when opportunities arose, for instance, a war was declared between Britain and Spaniards in 1796. The Yucatan forces relayed message that they would also seek to attack the settlement of British Honduras. And so that sets a context that there's an imperial rivalry. At this time, the society here is based largely on enslaved African labor. You have anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 enslaved persons. And their main focus in terms of the wealthy enslavers is to extract logwood and mahogany. And when they see these threats, they call upon Great Britain to see if they could get assistance to defend their wealth.
I want you to, Rolando, paint a picture for us when the Spanish Empire tried to take over. What would you say was the primary objective of that? What did they see as beneficial in having Belize as part of their territory?
Right. Mr. Pinel and I were just discussing this morning. And so there were several factors that were at play, including the fact that from 1786, with that Convention of London, they were repeated every 2 years or so. There should have been commissioners who come in and investigate whether the British were complying with the Convention of London. And those reports indicate that they knew very well the number of timber that were being exported and the wealth that was being generated from the forests of this land. And so they knew that they were economic value and they could benefit from that. And then secondly, you have on the side of the Spaniards and the Spanish Empire, you have Captain O'Neill, who is rising in the ranks and can demonstrate his own military naval expertise and thereupon get a higher post within the empire. And so you have that taking place. And then in the case of the British, well, they were able to send spies. And so also in the case of the Spaniards, they send spies, so they would be coming into the coastal area, begin to noticing what's happening, what's the preparation, can we take control. The Spaniards had access to a large military force. And so those were all factors that were on their side in terms of wanting to pursue an invasion, pursue a takeover of the settlement, as they had done in previous times.
Right.
Oftentimes, for instance, the last one would have been in 1779, where they captured and burnt down St. George's Key and took the prisoners to Bacalar, and then some of them went to Cuba, and they were later released. And some of them came back to continue their works here in the settlement. And so again, it wasn't the first time, but it would turn out to be the last time that the Spaniards attempted to take full control of this settlement.
Take us from 1779 to 1798. That would have been almost 20 years later, more or less. Let's get to that aspect of what transpired in our history.
Sure. So after 1779, the settlement essentially becomes stagnant and abandoned. Small operations are taking place, but there's great uncertainty over who controls the land. A lot of the operations continue in the Mosquito Coast until those prisoners are released and the operations begin to increase, especially until after 1786, which is the Convention of London that agrees now that from the Seboon River all the way up to the Rio Hondo River, the settlers could now legally extract both logwood and mahogany. They shouldn't build any forts, they shouldn't exercise any judicial governance, but they did so nonetheless, and especially with the arrival of the evacuees from the Mosquito Coast, which more than doubled the population. About 2,000 enslaved Africans and indigenous persons were brought into the settlement along with enslavers, which transformed the society, right? So that was a major turning point between that period of 1779 and 1798, the 86 convention and the 87 evacuation of the Mosquito Coast, enslaver and enslaved population. And that changed a lot of the dynamics, but not the essential mode of production, which was we go along the rivers, extract as much logwood and mahogany, send them down the river and export, and having very little interest to build a society, but rather to extract wealth. And that mode of production would continue even after the battle occurs.
Well, I want to include Mr. Pinello in the conversation. He is a historian himself. Mr. Pinello, paint us a picture of this actual battle. On both sides, the parties that were involved, the leaders involved, and how did it take place?
That's a very good one. That's a very good question. Over the past few years, we worked along with a team of historians from our Mexican neighbors, particularly on the Belize side, we have Dr. Angel Cal, Dr. Herman Bird, and myself working along with professors from the University of Quintana Roo, Professor Gustavo Alfaro, and Martin Ramos Diaz. Our work was the transcription of Spanish archival documents that highlight from the Spanish angle what was ongoing at the time. And as Director Cocom has indicated, the rivalry within the area was such that you consider some of the individual evils that occurs. And so people like O'Neill in particular, looking at advancing from being the Captain General of Yucatan, perhaps the aim to become a viceroy of what was Nueva España, would play out in the directives that he would issue out to his subordinates, particularly at Bacalar. So we see to the interaction that you cannot erase from the equation that the 1789 permits to allow for the English to extend the boundaries and to carry on the logwood trade, their timber trade, was beyond the boundaries that had been demarcated, as Director Cocom has already explained. So in and of itself, then, we find that part of the preparations would occur with the directive from Mérida, Yucatan, into Bacalar, and by extension, O'Neill had to get the permission from the authorities, and in this case from Jose Miguel Asanza, out of Cuba. And so the whole military operation then does not happen in the case of 1 month. It actually takes about a year of preparation until he finally gets the okay to go ahead. Now remember, going to war, you need people who are prepared.
Yeah.
Their naval maneuvers, their military naval strategy, signals that have to be used. And so there's a whole series of preparation that has to take place. We find that the most senior officer, Francisco de Bocanegra, um, not familiar with the waters, relies, along with Mayen, they rely on the information that they can get from many of the same Yucatan captains who had been coming for the inspection of the twice a year inspection that the Convention of London had called for. So knowledge of the waters becomes a critical component. The Minerva, which was the one of the bigger ships, along with Nuestra Señora de la O, cannot come into the waters, into what is now Belize's territorial waters. As you know, you have to find the break in the channel.
Yeah.
The British by had then gotten the HMS Marlin to take control of the channel around English Key. And so that becomes a part of the strategy then that favors the English naval forces, whereas the Spanish, because of the delay in terms of getting all the bureaucratic approvals, arrived late. And so that in itself then is something to factor in. Overall, between the 3rd of September and the 15th of September, up to the 26th of September, the Spanish forces are within the area. It is from the information from the Spanish, we find that it does coincide that there was some exchange of crossfire. And we see some exchange of crossfire because as on the one part, we hear 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we hear an hour, we hear 2 hours, 3 hours. What we know from the Spanish records is that whatever may have occurred in terms of the exchange of gunfire lasted less than an hour. And how much of a battle was it then has become the question. Again, the interpretation, and as we look at records, as we try to ascertain what really transpired, you know, it's not an easy task because the people who were, most of the people who were directly involved did not write. And so what we get are information, what we get are sources from people who were around, and in this case, captains. And as you know, both the English will say, "Oh, we won," and the Spanish also say, "We won." So whatever the case it was, by the after getting back into the War Council, we find that the O'Neill decides that based on the lack of support that he gets from Bocanegra, from the larger ships, Mayen and so on, it would be a futile exercise to carry on in trying to dislodge the English from the area.
Mr. P,
Thank you for that input. I just want to interject here because we are short for time. I have one last question though, Rolando, and I'm going to throw it to you because we know ultimately that the victory of the Battle of St. George's Key ultimately led to Belize's becoming a British colony and thereafter establishing independence. As a historian, yourself and Mr. Kokom, I'm only able to get one comment because we are short for time. But what are the values that you would say we should be able to accept from this historic event that really shapes our identity as Belizeans?
Right. I think there's much to be said. And just for even just the framing of the question that it led to a colonial colony, that doesn't take place until much later, until 1862. So then, again, there's a problem with that narrative because 1798 leads to a reinforcement of a colonial enslaved society, but not necessarily Britain being willing to accept that this is a formal colony that we will take possession, we will have full authority over it. Belize or British Honduras continues to be a very precarious settlement, not fully under the control of Britain, but yes, with British presence and later with superintendents and superintendents being present in the society, and that shifts. And you after post the battle, you see creation of the government house, the creation of the first Anglican church in Central America, and so there's a reinforcement of a colonial enslaved society that takes place. But by and large, the mode of production, meaning a large number of persons being forced to work, and they work, the amount of logwood and mahogany that were being exported from this settlement was extremely high. In fact, it contributed to the devaluation of mahogany because you are overproducing. The surplus was more than the demand. And so to say that that there was a radical, some type of revolutionary change for most of the population, that did not happen with the battle. The battle reproduces itself as a colonial enslaved society. That's for sure. And the fact that the Spaniards did not actively come to remove the British afterwards, not that they didn't have the idea, but they didn't come to do so, resulted in the continuing development of a colonial society, which until much later, Belizeans will be able to fight off and achieve independence, which is why the battle precisely became this battleground over moral values. Should you celebrate a battle that reinforced a colonial society when you're now fighting for independence? And the nationalist movement at the time, through the People's United Party, said that's not possible, and they rephrased the name Battle of St. George's Key Day to National Day. And in fact, into the 1950s, there would be two separate parades for this because the independence movement believed that we should use an existing day that is already celebrated and move us forward into a new direction of self-governance and later for self-determination and independence. And so insofar as values, that one has to be debated. We need to continuously debate these significance of the day. Insofar as the territorial implications, well, it is clear, the legal opinion says it. In fact, one of the things in our favor is that it demonstrates quite clear that Guatemala has no influence over the territorial boundaries of this space, and that it was in fact authorities from Yucatan. And so that's the extent, for instance, that the legal opinion on Belize territorial dispute with Guatemala makes about battle. And so I'm just trying to give us a broader context about these type of conversations for us to appreciate the fact that history is about interpretation. History relies on a rigorous analysis of context. Context matters very deeply. And today, the Battle of St. George's Key remains a contested narrative, right? And we should accept that and accept the fact that we need to do a better job at explaining these historical events and a better job of appreciating the diverse actors that have contributed to our understanding. So when it comes to the celebrations itself, we know, for instance, it's not until 1898 that the grand centennial celebrations takes place, but that happens 10 years, several years after, the 1888 Emancipation celebration. And how do these two different narratives shape the nation? Well, that's still evolving, and you can have us back for a full hour.
Definitely,
Sabrina,
we'll try to,
and we will probably do more justice to this important topic.
I think, not to cut you cross, Rolando, but I definitely agree with you. I think that this conversation deserves more time to appropriately delve into the details of this particular history that Belize has. But I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show via Zoom. You and your colleague, Mr. Giovanni Pinello. We appreciate the information, and certainly we would love to continue this conversation at a later date. All right, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We're going to go and take a break, and when we come back, it's all about DJ Mix and the latest Soca hits. Don't go away.
Hello, friends. I'm Dr. Bob Roberts with another 60-second sermon from God's Word. The Bible says, whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these you might be partakers of the divine nature. Dr. Donald Gray Bornhouse tells a story of the wife of a French pastor who had made a promise box. She wrote out in French more than 200 promises and put them in the box. Through the years, this box was used by the family to teach them to trust in the Lord. Later, during the war, the only food they had was messes of potato peelings from a local restaurant. Her children became emaciated and they cried to her for food. In one of her more tragic moments, she turned to the promise box in desperation and prayed for a single promise to meet her needs. Being blinded by her tears, she reached out for the promise box and accidentally knocked it over. The promises showered down all around her, and she suddenly realized in that moment of desperation that all the promises of God were for her and only needed to be claimed by faith. If you're going through a trial right now, turn to God and the Bible, God's promise box, and you will find peace and hope. Today's 60-second sermon has been presented by Christian Foundations of Faith in cooperation with the Baptist churches in your area.
My beautiful Belize, my land of the free, my home and it's bound by the Caribbean Sea. Belize, we are free and independent, we're free and independent, free and independent, to be whatever you wanna be, free and independent, we're free and independent, free and independent, we're changing our country, we're free, so make we celebrate with smart, come celebrate with smart, make we celebrate with smart. Let's celebrate with smart. So make we celebrate with smart. Come celebrate with smart. Make we celebrate with smart. Let's celebrate with smart.
The entire Smart family wishes all Belizeans a safe and happy September celebrations. Smart, bringing people together.
Get between Belize City, Key Cocker, and San Pedro on a ferry faster than anyone else with Caribbean Sprinter. You better Belize it. Get with us online at sprinter.bz.
It's Carnival time, and once again, Channel 5 will bring you all the fun and excitement of this year's Carnival Road March. Our live coverage starts at 1 p.m. on Saturday, September 9th, with highlights of the King and Queen competition, mass camps, and Juve, leading up to this year's spectacular Road March. Don't miss all the sights and sounds of Carnival 2023 right here on Channel 5 and on our Facebook and YouTube pages.
Get ready, babe. We're going on a vacation.
Finally, where are we going?
Don't worry, babe. I have we covered.
Are you sure you know where we're going?
Yes, babe. Oh, right there, see? Babe, the price is too good to be true. Me look much more better in that picture.
When life throws you a curveball, Belize Bank has your back. With our online financing, you can turn any vacation mishap into a dream getaway.
Cheers to Belize Bank for making our dream vacation a reality.
Thanks to you, be able to turn things around.
No thanks to you, cheapo.
Out.
Experience the future of financing with Belize Bank online, where you can secure funds for anything, from anywhere, at any time, all without stepping foot in a bank. Apply for a loan today and unlock a world of possibilities.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind-the-scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
Welcome back to our third segment, and this segment is all about the carnival season and the soca hits that you need to know for 2023. We are joined by Evolution Sounds at DJ K Mix, and he's a disc jockey over at Evolution Sounds, and also DJ Pinky, and he is also from Evolution Sounds. Now, this is a special segment because the Evolution Sound Group will be introducing us to the 2023 Carnival hits, so just in time for Saturday. And they'll also be giving away 2 tickets for the upcoming day party and 1 general ticket for the soca concert. But it comes with questions. Now, we're not going to give anything away during conversations. You have to go hunt for these answers yourselves. So here are the 3 questions. First, what's the name of the upcoming day party? Second, name 2 of Patrice's songs and 2 Beanie Man songs. And third, what year did DJ K-Mix and DJ Pinky become Evolution Sound? Hunt on Facebook and you'll find your answers and answer them right in our Facebook comment section. All right?
Yo, Evolution! All soca lovers do this. Show me your hand. 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 I'm not going no small fret. Let me extend my apologies on a big fret with big flag going overhead like canopy. Rag in me pleasant good morning. Vest sneakers and wallabies. Knife tips and tight pants. I never really rate none of these. I come from Brass Festival and from customs.
Yeah, pleasant good morning to everyone out there watching on the TV.
Power pill. Everybody gone.
Evolution Sound here with you guys.
Still, if it's
Giving
me
you the best
alone,
in some 2023 soca music.
Yeah, for no stand up. Hey, hey, hey. I come to party with my hand.
Shout out to everybody who's getting ready for Carnival Road March this year.
1 in the air. You two.
I hope y'all excited as I am.
1 in the air. I never come here for no stand up. Hey, hey, hey. I come to party with my hand. Hey, hey, hey. All soca people put you 2 1 in the air. You 2 1 in the air. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yo. All soca lovers.
Look, we there, yeah, yeah, yeah. All up on the pavement. Hot girl and a speak.
Shout out to Sell of the World every time as well. Don't forget to stop in and check out all the latest in electronics, alright? Don't forget we are the #1. We're the authorized dealer for Samsung as well. Shout out to Travelers Rum. Shout out to Bellikin as well. just mention a few carnival groups I know off the top of my head. I think we have Soca Mocha, Mod Squad, Titans, Mother Nature, Belize and Joel. Alright? Like I said, shout out to every carnival group getting ready for Carnival Road March 2023.
Look where we reach again. End up in a party in the streets again. Even though I never wanna cheat, there's 1,000 man
and 1,000
girl. I wanna dance. Look where we reach now. Why we bringing sun up to the beach now? Just let the relationship breathe. I is not your man, you is not my girl. Until we reach so you could jump up who you want and I go up who you like. Yeah. No. Look where we reach again. End up in a party in the streets again. Even though I never wanna cheat, there's 1,000 man and 1,000 girls.
Don't forget the big day party going down September 10th. We're gonna let you know what's going on with that in a few, alright?
Just let the relationship breathe. I is not your man, you is not my girl. Until we reach so you could jump up who you want and I go up who I like it. And it's just it away and everybody is like it. Like yourself, like yourself, like yourself. So you could jump up who you want and I go up who I like it. And it's just
Look out for Evolution Sound on the Bellican truck this year. Well, every year. That's how we do it.
So don't you let me down again, 'cause I'm depending on you, so you better come through this time. Please hear my cry, and if I ever let you down, my friend, it was a misunderstanding.
What's a way to start the morning? Like I said, he's dropping all the hits for 2023 Power Soca, Evolution Sound. Dropping some soca bombs.
We reach the stage, you warm it up, show your hands level. We going across, we gearing up, so take part of it. We reach the stage, you warm it up, all the posse done prepare. Now we going across, every man just line up, let me summer take it on. Starting jumping by the truck, we gon' jump up for the festival.
Soca songs, look out for us this entire weekend. It's gonna be a fully loaded weekend. Starting Friday night at Thursdays. After Thursdays, we're on the truck. Juve morning. After Juve, we have Carnival. And the Carnival after party, alright? And of course, the big day party, September 10th, going down. Once again, big up to each and every Carnival band, our Carnival group, getting ready for Carnival Road March 2023. day party that's going down September 10th. This artist is gonna be there September 10th. September 20th, Belize Civic Center. Patrice Roberts, be the man.
We coming to share down that, share down. 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 Where the Lucian pass it there, share down that. Where the Jab pass it there, share down. Put that bomba day, make the bomba la. Put that bomba day, make the bomba la. You got over there. You got over there. You got over there. Time to make a movie. Say you got over there. Let we make a movie. You got over there. Time to make a movie. Say you got over there. 1, 2, 3, action. Bend over, bend over, bend over. Short time. Bend over, bend over, bend over. Short time. Bend over, bend over, bend over. Short time. Bend over, bend over. Give me the blockbuster. No, don't put it wrong, 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 put it wrong. Short time. Put it wrong, 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 put it wrong. Short time. Put it wrong, put it wrong.
And of course, after Carnival is all about Carnival shutdown.
I had some stress, so I take some shots. But I won't take really don't just boy. I heard a voice talking in my head. He said, go to the bed, you can't go to your bed. So I said, who is talking and where you from? The voice tell me, my name is Mr. Rum. You hear the iron, that means it start. Don't let nobody start. Mash it up, then we'll pick up something. Anything, from them we can grab something.
Pick up something.
I just want to pick up.
This weekend, don't pick up what you can't manage, all right?
I will grab something, anything. From tell me to run with it, run with it, run with it. Pick up something, start to run with it.
That was Evolution Sound here with you guys. Remind you guys to stay safe this entire weekend coming, all right? Stay hydrated. If you're drinking, drink responsibly. And we look forward to seeing you guys out there this weekend. Carnival Road March 2023.
My Social Security. Your direct online access to all your Social Security information. 360 view of all your Social Security information. Registration services, benefits, contributions, and employer services at your fingertips. Enjoy all the new features with your My Social Security account. Register with SSB. Submission of benefit claims. Submission of contribution statements. View contribution record. Enjoy all your My Social Security feature at ssbportal.org.bz. Social Security at your fingertips.
It's Carnival time, and once again, Channel 5 will bring you all the fun and excitement of this year's Carnival Road March. Our live coverage starts at 1 p.m. on Saturday, September 9th, with highlights of the King and Queen competition, mass camps, and Juve, leading up to this year's spectacular Road March. Don't miss all the sights and sounds of Carnival 2023 right here on Channel 5 and on our Facebook and YouTube pages.
The Carnival Association, Empire Entertainment, and Travelers Liquor presents the return of the last laps inside the Marion Jones Sporting Complex. It's all going down on Saturday, September 9th. That's right, on Carnival Day, where the carnival will be finishing inside the stadium for the last laps and the judging of the 9 competing bands. Come on out and cheer on your favorite band, and immediately thereafter, you get to get off the bleacher and come on onto the grounds for the first ever Rags and Flags party, featuring DJ Drea, all the way from Trinidad and Tobago, DJ Sambo, and it's all hosted by DJ Dixie and Yannicka Matthews. Giveaways will be guaranteed, and food and drinks will be on sale. Gates open from 3 p.m. and this party lasts until 8 p.m. It's the Rags and Flags Party, Saturday, September 9th, inside the Marion Jones Sporting Complex. See you there.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank contactless MasterCard debit card. Introducing our standard debit and MasterCard Platinum debit cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
My beautiful Belize, my land of the free, my home and it's bound by the Caribbean Sea. Belize, we are free and independent. We're free and independent, free and independent to be whatever you wanna be. Free and independent. We're free and independent, free and independent. We're changing our country. We're free. So make we celebrate with smart. Come celebrate with smart. Make we celebrate with smart. Let's celebrate with smart. So make we celebrate with smart. Come celebrate with smart. Make we celebrate with smart. Let's celebrate with smart.
The entire Smart family wishes all Belizeans a safe and happy September celebration. Smart, bringing people together.
And welcome back. We are ending off our show this morning with a final conversation with my good friend John Marsden. He's here in his capacity as a promoter. And of course, you have a big event coming up this weekend with the day party. Let's talk about that.
So, morning. Thanks again.
Good morning.
For the Leopoldine. So this Sunday at the Belize Airport Authority, right behind the municipal airstrip, directly besides Chopkia Cargo, we're having a day party called, it's the first ever Bacchanal Sunday, so it's an annual thing we're trying to do. And this edition is called Welcome to Heaven. We call it Welcome to Heaven because the venue itself is wrapped in white. It's like a heaven theme.
Oh, nice.
So we'll have some angels, we'll have decor of
You
depicting.
can come dressed like a costume angel.
Yeah, so it's not like a costume dressing event, but my venue will be dressed as something like what I would depict as, or what we would depict as heaven.
Heaven.
Right, so it's a mostly white party. So the dress code is basically wear white or bright. That's what I'm telling people.
Yeah.
The bright colors help with that white so it pop out. So when the photos then come out, you look good in a white because the background, everything around you is basically white.
Yeah.
Right. It starts at 3 p.m. and it goes until 11. So it's a day party. You can have enough time. You come out. You'll get your drinks. You get food. You get we're getting some little mementos, like as in we have some head lays.
Yeah.
The neck garlands that we have limited in those. We have the special edition cups just for this event. It's a well thought out event. I mean, we're trying to up the little level of parties in Belize. We're trying to give people something that, I mean, ambience is. I'm a big person that set in ambience. I like to set my ambience.
You have to have that atmosphere.
When I get the atmosphere, you sit there, look like, all right, I did that somewhere where I want to have fun.
We notice a lot more of day parties coming out on the scene. What would you say makes day parties a great experience over nightlife?
For one, basically, I think people think that it's much more safer. We're partying in the day, we're partying in the evening. Two, for the people that necessarily have other priorities the other day. You go out to party by 10, you're there home by 11, you're there in your bed, you sleep, you wake up for 6, you're well rested, come back good for the next day. So it's a new trend. It's not only in Belize, it's all over the world.
It's taken off
a new
for a
trend.
while,
So, but again, like I tell people, it's something that the more mature crowd comes and they vibe. I mean, when are there in the night scene, you have a lot of younger. Not to say anything is wrong with being younger, but you have a lot of more people that maybe you might not want to.
It's a different kind of energy.
Yeah, different energy. The day vibe is just like it's the energy is so chill and pure to me, and also a lot of people love it.
Of like the Rock Nation brunch, where you have all of these celebrities and these people enjoying themselves during the day as opposed to at night.
Exactly, and that's the more thing about it. It's more like it's something new. You know, we love new things, and to me, the best part about the day parties is in the evening, just before sunset.
Yes,
right?
sir.
That the look and the
everybody looks good.
Yes,
when everyone's
everybody does. Yes, I mean,
the golden hour.
In our settings for the venue, we're going to have like a sign-in board. With that, it's actually a board that you can sign your name on. It's actually a board that you can take pictures in front of because it's branded the Bacchanal Sunday Welcome to Heaven team. We'll be having our own models, our angels walking around helping you guys take pictures. Like I say, it's something that very new. We're putting a lot of thought into it. We're trying to give Belize something that they're going to be happy about. We have VIP cabanas. Unfortunately, those are sold out.
Already?
Yeah.
What are we looking at in terms of ticket prices and the DJs who will be on it?
Okay, so for our DJs, we have the best of the best in Belize. We have DJ Dollar, Cloud9, Jago, Evolution Song, DJ Odyssey, DJ Cad, DJ Console, who is perhaps one of the hidden gems in Belize, a young man, bad. DJ Lala, DJ Cast, and then we're flying in from Antigua, DJ Elements. He's crowned the Caribbean Remix Prince. He does a lot of remixes, but he puts thought into his remixes as well. He's gonna mix some 90s music with some current music, and then to top off the show we have Soca singer Moto. He's gonna be sure to be rocking the crowd, hyping the crowd. Ticket prices are $50, pre-sold. At the door it probably be a little bit more. You can check out it's all over Facebook, it's all over Instagram, or you can call me at 622-9754. 622-9754, yeah.
That's remember number, man.
Remember your number?
I get glitch just now. But yeah, so just call me. I could deliver tickets between today, tomorrow, and Friday.
Do you have any sponsors you want to highlight?
Yes, of course. We always have to highlight the sponsors. Of course, we have to give crazy shout-outs to the BTB crew. I mean, they always stand behind me and everything I do. Honorable Anthony Marla, Cellular World, Madisco, Belize City Council, Mars Rental, Innova Dental, Leslie's Imports, Moyo Uno Resorts, LNR Imports, Travelers, and you guys for getting me this segment, man. I really appreciate it.
Certainly.
You know,
no problem.
It's something, like I said, Belize, it's something that we're trying to branch into and stake a vibe, keep it at a certain level, so that you know that when you come to a certain party, you know it's something to expect. So it's if you want to do a little research on it, I'm modeling this day party after what the Private Ryan has an event called Soca Brainwash. That's my inspiration for it. I've been to many other man parties, and his parties is a vibe. In Miami, when you go to that, it's always the first event to be sold out. And when I say sold out, easy one 15,000 people there at his parties. So his parties are my model, and it's something that we want to do. And we're beginning. Yes, we're smaller level in Belize, but we're trying to give that same aesthetic vibe, that same punch that you come, you know you're going to have fun at the event.
Yeah.
And it has the
Right?
potential to grow even
Yes,
bigger.
and it's a new venue. The venue has never been used for parties before, and we're actually going to create a wrap around the venue. We're wrapping the venue, so it's something new. It's something that the breeze will just make you feel relaxed.
Yeah.
Music will get you into that vibe to just enjoy yourself, party, and know it's nothing but good vibes at that event, right?
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, John, for joining us. As always, we know whenever you're in that chair, it has something to do with entertainment or sports. Simply doing your part in providing entertainment to Belize.
Yeah.
So we always appreciate having you here with us, and we wish you the best for the Bacchanal
Sundays.
Bacchanal
Welcome to Heaven
Sundays.
Edition.
Welcome to Heaven Edition. That sounds heavenly on its own already.
So thank you guys again. And come out, Belize. It's going to be fun.
All right, we're going to wrap up right here on set, and we want to thank you guys so much for sticking with us this Wednesday morning. We had three great segments, but we also included some entertainment for you. Of course, it started off with a little bit of a conversation from the folks over at the National Meteorological Service, talking things of heat wave and the hurricane season. In our second segment, we got a bit more information and a history lesson on the Battle of St. George's Key. You were also able to hear some of the 2023 Carnival Soca hits, so you better start learning those songs because Carnival is this Saturday. And if you want a day party to take part in, John Marsden has the perfect event for you. The Bacchanal Day Party. Welcome to Heaven. It's going to be an event, it's going to be a treat, and it's going to be something that you don't want to miss. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions or concerns, you can send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. But we also want to give a birthday shout out to Tamika Cleland. Happy birthday to you, Tamika. We hope you have the best birthday today. We also want to remind our viewers that if you would like to give a birthday shout out, you can also send us an email as mentioned. You can catch us on Facebook at OYE, Open Your Eyes BZ, as well as Instagram for behind the scenes comments at OYE Belize. Thank you so much for joining us. And please join us again tomorrow as you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
Have a great Wednesday.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.